Hi everyone, welcome to Live with Shamananda and John. And today we do have a very special guest. Kate Eckman is joining us live. She is gorgeous, she is wonderful, and she's actually one of my most favorite people. And Kate, please say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. Any friend or fan of Shamananda's is certainly a friend of mine, and I'm a fan of yours. So thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And of course, as always, we have John Atkinson leading the helm with his incredibly insightful questions and wonderful demeanor. John, say hi.
How's it going, everyone? Excited to have episode 13 here with Kate Eckman. Super excited to have her on today's episode. Kate today is a coach, public speaker, and author with a multifaceted background. So we can't wait to dive into some topics, discussions, and just great topics for you guys today. Let's start out with you, Kate, just, in terms of your background and what talk about a little bit about your upbringing and how that's paved the way for where you are at now with your life.
Sure. And so nice to meet you, John. So nice to meet everybody watching. I feel like I'm a professional, well, I am a professional spokesperson for different brands and many things. I've been a TV presenter for, you know, 2 decades, but I really am a spokesperson for being multifaceted and multidimensional and reminding everybody, especially women, where society wants to put us in a box and we can only be one thing. And you better only be one thing and be quiet about it, or you're really going to intimidate someone or threaten someone, and someone might not like you, and you might not be perceived as a nice girl, and you don't want to scare anybody. So be in your little box. And I'm reminding everybody to not be in their box and reminding you that you are multidimensional and multifaceted, and you get to take up a lot of space and you get to do a lot of things. And without even knowing that that was just my mantra and my jam since birth, I have done a lot of things. And I think it is a testament in this day and age that you don't need or have to be in your same job for 30, 40, 50 years. You certainly can if you want. But yeah, I have a background. I was a competitive swimmer for 17 years. And I've always been a very curious person, as Shamananda knows. I want to know everything about everything. And it's not just enough to know it, but I want to know the why behind it. So, I got into the TV news business. I was a journalist for years. TV news anchor and reporter. I was a QVC presenter, which is the world's leading home shopping network. So I was selling beauty products all over the world. I've been an executive at a tech company. I'm an author. I speak a lot about suicide prevention awareness. Um, and as an activist in that space, having lost loved ones to suicide, which is heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to anyone who's experienced that. And, I'm just always open to new experiences and opportunities. So it's when people, I hate the question, what do you do? um,
Mm-hmm.
and I will also say I'm a woman. My background and upbringing is asking meaningful questions. And that's, one of the reasons that led me back to grad school to study neuroscience and positive psychology and whole person coaching tech, and being able to ask interesting questions to get people to open up and share parts of themselves that they never really share with anyone. And I don't blame them, because they probably just haven't been asked a deep, meaningful question. So I am a woman on the quest for truth and on the quest for getting people to really open up and really be who they truly are, which sounds a little cliche, but I think most people haven't even dared to go and know who they really are. I think a lot of us are guilty of playing roles or placating people or doing what we think mom and dad want us to do, keeping up with the neighbors. And so if you're watching this right now, this is your invitation to dive a bit deeper. You will certainly do that with your work with Shamananda. So yeah, and I also realize that when people ask me questions, I rarely want to answer about myself. I want to make it about the collective, because this really is about you watching, not about me.
Hey, I get it. I feel the same way. I do that all the time. I'll always turn it back into but how can I support you? Because really, I always feel so insignificant within the conversation, and who I am has nothing to do with how I'm going to support you. So I totally relate to that very much. So,
I love that, Kate. And we're all about questions and diving in more. And that's why we have these episodes to serve the collective, and we're just super excited to have you on today's episode. We talk a lot in previous episodes about the four bodies, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies that we all have, that are a part of us, and healing different traumas. And we have a lot of viewers, going through many certain things, all three of us included in that collectiveness. What would you say in terms of, your body of work? Obviously, you have incredible experiences, life experiences, things that you've done, things you've been through that have really shaped who you are today. What are some of, the traumas in related to your four bodies that maybe you had to dig deep and really heal those so-called sacred wounds to move past something and, see that other side and break through barriers?
Yeah, thank you for that. What comes to mind is losing two dear friends. One of them who I consider to be just the love of my life. Losing both of them to suicide in 1 year completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I was living in New York City. I was an on-camera presenter. I was a model. I was from the outside, just had that kind of dream charmed life, going about doing my thing. And that said, I never felt like enough. It's like I always had to achieve more, and that's the good thing and bad thing about New York City. It's the energy, it's the ambition, but that city will make you feel very poor. You know, you could be making a good amount of money, but you can barely afford to live there. And you're like, here's this average apartment, and that average apartment is $20 million. So it was a lot of the keeping up with the Joneses and the appearances. And after these tragedies, I really had to stop and really reevaluate the way I was living my life, who, like most people, placed all of my worth in the externals, what I look like, how much money I'm making, who I'm impressing, the likes, the follows, all of that. And I really saw myself in Sam, my loved one who died. He was a public figure, beloved. Both of these men were so beloved, had these incredible lives. Why would they choose to leave us? And so it really pushed me to not just be concerned with the physical body, all the externals and what we look like and those sorts of things, but really go into the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's really where the Full Spirit Workout, my book, where it was born, where, we really have to learn to train our inner muscles. Yes, Shamananda has a book there. Thank you so much. So this is really about getting fit on the inside. And I went back to school and studied the neuroscience and positive psychology and the whole person coaching techniques, which we are looking at the whole person, not just what we present to the world or what we're comfortable sharing, which is that superficial surface level stuff, but really getting clear on who we are and what we're here to do. And it's a deep dive, and it can be very, very painful. And I think that's why a lot of people are resistant to it. You've got to really look at yourself and come up and rub up against that trauma. But this is where life gets really juicy. For me, it's been a beautiful journey of self-discovery. And then when we go on that journey, we're able to connect more deeply with other people and find out what really makes us tick and really be a part of the solution to all of the problems and ills in the world. And so, people know and understand, whether they do it or not, to fight against gravity, we have to exercise our physical muscles to be fit. But there is so much emotional gravity that we are up against every day: stress, anxiety, global pandemics, the rude person down the street, the chaos, the uncertainty, the politicians, everything that really takes us out and weighs us down. So I am really passionate about building these strong inner muscles, because when you do that, the world is your oyster. You take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves. You take care of these inner muscles, you don't have to try so hard or force a control. You just naturally attract the people and opportunities and experiences.
Well said. Nice.
I love that. I love that. You touched on a lot of great points, and just wanted to point it out, thanks for sharing what you went through with your loved ones, going through that. We talk a lot, in terms of the four bodies, and, healing takes time. It's not an overnight thing, much like your background in sports. I have a background in sports, and sometimes people view things as the so-called overnight success. And I think sometimes people view healing like that, right? They think, just because I'm going to talk to someone, I'm going to feel better. Or like you brought up, the tangibility of the physical body. Hey, just because I'm going to the gym, I'm going to feel good internally through my emotions and mental capacity, and also the spiritual body. what were some of the things maybe that you still are working through that we bring up a lot of times, like the residue, because things are tangible. So the more we work through the four bodies, the less tangible, the less we see, through our lens, through our landscape. Talk a little bit about that hard time in your life through those suicides. What did you really, because you've been through a lot since then, what were some of those steps to work through your four bodies to really get, past some of that trauma and obviously work through that?
I think a lot of it is taking a counterintuitive approach. And as a high performer and achiever, and someone who derived the majority of my self worth from achieving and performing, which has a cost. You get the pain of anxiety, you get the pain of despair, because it's never enough. And so for me, it was really taking time to slow down, which is really challenging to do in our culture, especially here in America, where we're just bombarded with so much. So it's really, for me, the art of becoming more practiced at listening to the truth, listening to your divine wisdom, listening to God, universe, spirit, whatever you believe in. But that is all the truth. That is love. We are so bombarded with messages that become our subconscious or our consciousness, the ego, whatever we want to call it, of you're not good enough. Why'd you say that dumb thing? All of that crap that, you're cruising along having a great day, and it's like hits you, and you're like, wait a minute. So it's becoming more still and more practiced at listening to that. And for me, listening to God, and instead of like having to call 10 people like, what do you think, or what should I do, it's sitting down and getting quiet. There's a beautiful quote by philosopher Blaise Pascal that says, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And we saw that play out during COVID, where people didn't know what to do with themselves. It's like, really, you can't like be at home by yourself or with others and have nothing to do for even a day. And so for me, it's getting really comfortable with that silence, getting comfortable when things aren't working out or you're in a slower period of your life. It's really that notion of going slow to go fast. And when I do keynotes, I make people do, I was so nervous the first time I did this, but I came up with this sit and stare practice during COVID, where you do what it says. It's you sit, you stare out the window, you stare in front of you, and you really check in with yourself as if you're a small child and say, how are you doing? What do you want right now? What do you need? What's working? What isn't? And how simple that sounds, but how we rarely even give ourselves that check-in and that genuine concern, but then we get so mad when others aren't able to see us or be available for us. So I invite everyone to do at least 5 minutes a day of sit and stare, check in with yourself. That's when you get the answers. That's when you have the quote that goes viral. That's when you get that insight. It's like, oh, I'm going to call this person and collaborate on this and pitch this idea. Ooh, I'm going to email that person and offer my services here. You get these incredible ideas that are way greater than anything someone's just going to offer up to you. So, a little more quiet time and a little more time with ourselves to just really check in and know who we are underneath all of the labels and limitations and masks and veils that we wear.
Mm. Oh my gosh. And there's so many people that just do not take the time to spend even an ounce of quality time with themselves, where they, it's all about work. It's all about doing the external and getting and the doing, as opposed to, well, what about the internal for myself? What about discovering who I am as a human being, as a spiritual being, as any kind of being? And sitting in the silence is the only way that you can discover that. So I really think you're onto something there.
Thank you. And it can be it can be and will be uncomfortable and painful. And I've even had to ask myself, when something's coming up. I had a moment yesterday. I was cruising along, having a great or decent day, and then it's like this thing, or you get this thing, or like. But for me, it's almost, you can tell where you're really moving into in a great place and into the light, because this is darkness enemy, whatever people want to call it. It's like, no, aren't you mad? Aren't you mad that person said that? Don't you want revenge? Don't you want to expose him? You should be really pissed. Aren't you pissed? And I'm like, well, and technically, and you have every right to be pissed. You get to be pissed. But it's just like, why do I want to do that when I can choose this? And so not shaming ourselves and moving through the emotion. And for me, it's like, okay, you're allowed to do this. and then being open and willing to release it and choose something else. You know, as I say, um, if you really want peace, you can choose peace. However, I don't want to gloss over the pain that anyone's going through. And just, I hate when people say, oh, just let it go. I think that's so abusive and dismissive. As I like to say, give it up. And I give it up. I believe in God. I give it up to a higher power. And sometimes I will literally look up and say, Dear God, you know, I am more neurotic than anybody. I am not enlightened enough to not judge this person. Please take this from me. And I don't know what happens, but something alchemizes when we are willing to give it up. And he does take it from me. Sometimes it feels instant, and other times it's like a little, you know, takes a little moment. But if you are willing to give it up, and please, I invite you to please not tell people to just get over it or let it go. Um, I think that's so harmful, and I hear it all the time.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, you get to honor the person. You get to listen to them, and there's way too many times in this world that people's feelings are dismissed just because other people don't want to hear it for whatever reason, and it's really unfortunate. Just because you might feel as though the feelings or feedback that's being presented isn't germane to you or what you're going through, it doesn't mean that it should be invalid. And it doesn't matter if the feelings that are being experienced are feelings that are unsavory. You know, so if it's pettiness, if it's anger, if it's the feelings that people like to shy away from and kind of do this, it's just it's really we get to honor our feelings. We get to do it for ourselves and we get to do it for others. So and we just get to listen to what people have to say. There's been so many situations where I've sat there and I've listened to people tell a story and they're apologizing for having these feelings. It's terrible. It's like, no, you get to have the feelings. But yeah, but it's anger and it's jealousy. It's like, so it's you and it's authentic and it's your experience. So don't invalidate yourself. Like don't decide that it's something that isn't worth experiencing, or that it makes you lesser than, or to suppress who you are just because you're having that experience. It's human and it's okay. And so I really do love that. We get to honor our feelings and we get to honor other people's feelings and not invalidate people just because they're having a human experience.
Yeah, and I think it's that reminder that not everybody gets access to you or your pain or your story or your joys or your successes. And to, I think as I've gotten older, um, you know, because I am an open book and I share all my business. I'm very, very vulnerable in my book and in my speaking. Um, but I've just learned that not everybody has the capacity to show up for us in the way that is helpful and beneficial to us. And that's why I do recommend investing in people like Shamananda and professional coaches and healers and people who are trained and have the capacity, because then it can just, we've all been there, it makes you feel worse. You feel judged by the person, you feel they say some comment back where I'm like, wow, they don't see me or hear me or have the capacity to be there for me, and you feel worse. And so that's why it is important to really cultivate that deep inner relationship with yourself, so you can show up for yourself, have the capacity to be there for yourself, but also the intuition that says, you know, I know you're hurting right now and you really want to tell this person stuff, but have they earned the right? That's one of our guiding principles in coaching, is earning the right to advance with your client. And has this person earned the right to hear your story? So just something to keep in mind. I know everybody's going through a lot, but there are people there to help you, professionals. And if you have just one friend who can show up for you in a meaningful way, um, you're blessed, you're wealthy. That's true wealth and success to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love I love it. I love the energy on this episode, you guys. Kate, love it, bringing it. I had a few questions in terms of a few things you've said, because it hits home in terms of serving the collective. I liked how you said, definitely in this country, we're a go, go, go mentality. And that is ingrained in us at the, bloodline level, I think. And so I always think to myself, and this could be like a tweet or tattoo, is people live a carbonated lifestyle over a fermented one. And I liked how you said to take time for yourself. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's such a struggle in this country for people to take a time out and just be and sit with themselves compared to, say, the Eastern world?
I think because the messaging that we receive all day, every day, both consciously and subconsciously, whether we're aware of it or not, it's like if you believe in it, whether you believe in it or not, this is true. You look at every marketing, advertising, everything is a constant message of you're not good enough in some way. How you are right now is not good enough. Maybe you have the financial success. God, you're ugly. You don't match up. You don't measure up aesthetically. Maybe you're beautiful, but gosh, you're dumb. You really need this. And it sounds harsh to say, but that's what we're being told. Or you see it all the time. I mean, I used to have this mentality: if something would go wrong with a man, it's like, oh, it's because I'm not like a size 2. Where the hell did that come from? Now, maybe it came from, I worked in the fashion industry for, 12 years, and they always tell you you're two something. But I think it is our culture of go, go, go. You always have to achieve. You have to keep up with the Joneses. I think if you live in areas like where I do, I feel like a starter home, I don't feel like it does. A starter home starts at $2 million. You're like, well, I guess I have to work 20 hours a day to just afford to have a house. So there's practical things like that. But I think we've been sold so many lies. And that's why we need to start questioning what we're told, what we're hearing, and just stop and pause and ask yourself, is that even true? Whether it's something you hear or see from advertising, whether it's something that is said to you, oh yeah, like a woman, you need to be really skinny. I think controlling women to be skinny is a byproduct of a misogynistic society. So is that even true? What if it's more about our health? And my dad is a 6'5" basketball player. We're both athletes. I'm not. I will be dead before I'm a size 2. So that's just an example. I'm really sick of talking about body image and weight and skinniness. But I think the overall message there is to start questioning: is this really true? And who am I in this dialogue? And who do I want to be? And what steps can I take to get there? But again, it comes with the deliberate, conscious, intentional slowing down and starting to ask ourselves more meaningful questions to move the needle rather than falling prey to the caca of the world.
Agreed. There
Mm-hmm.
is, you brought up an interesting point, and I think we've talked about it before, but it bears repeating since it's germane to this conversation. How our complete economic platform is based upon selling to people who don't have enough, aren't enough. So every single thing that's sold to people, it's, well, if you have this, then maybe you'll be lovable. That's always the story behind every single product. You're not lovable enough because you're too ugly, so you need to have this. You're not lovable enough because, if people don't see you as really wealthy, you need to drive this car. Or clothes, or the way you look, your hair, whatever it is, whatever product it is. You're not going to live long enough unless you have this. And there's just, it's all based on you're not enough. The entire community, the entire infrastructure of what we created, and it's disgusting. And people get to wake up to that and understand that it's a complete illusion. And if you're going to buy into it, then there gets to be a little bit of discernment there in order to save your soul in this world where illusion is dominant and it takes control of our consciousness. So
Yeah, and I
it's
think
a big subject for me.
choosing not to engage, right? And whether it's turning off those certain TV shows or the TV in general or certain people, and really getting to have, what a concept, your own perspective, your own thoughts, your own manifesto, if you will. But that's going to take conscious unplugging from what you're plugged into, take a 180-degree journey to the other side of the spectrum, and come up with your own more loving thought system that is based on love instead of fear. And I've shared with you recently going through a really tough time with a really difficult person and choosing love. And I was inspired and embodied Martin Luther King Jr.'s, hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. And it can feel scary, and you think, well, that's not, does that even really work? Or look what happened to him. But seeing and experiencing that choosing the loving response, even when it is so hard, and the non-reactivity and the calmness, that it actually does win, and it is more powerful than all the money in the world and all of the things that are coming at you to try to destroy you or take you down. So I like to even say that out loud because it's a good reminder to myself, because it is easy to slip into the oh, or like wanting to take revenge in some way, or wanting to act out in a way that isn't going to serve you in a good way. And then even just again asking yourself, why do you want to take this action that's going to cause harm to someone? Because when we cause harm to others, when we're judging others, as my mentor would say, we think the sword is falling on their head, but really it's falling on our head. That's like, whatever I'm doing to you, I'm really and ultimately doing to myself, which is why it feels really shitty when you're like, screw him, and you're going off, and maybe you need to vent and release it. But you see how shitty you feel when you're doing it. And it's because when you're putting that out, even if it's like, well, it's him, we're really saying it about ourselves too, which is really icky.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. What do you think, John?
I love that, Kate. And you brought up a good angle on the last few things you've said, and it was brought up last episode on a neutral lens, and you're really hitting on the power of neutrality and getting to choose what we get to feel, what we get to view, what actions do we get to take in those moments. Speak about that, because it seems like that has been, through your experiences, developed. And a lot of people struggle with coming at a neutral lens and not, really realizing they might be coming from a neutral lens, or they just don't know what that is. So, how has a neutral lens helped you recently or through your life?
Yeah, and it is a practice. So I don't know why any of us think that we're just going to show up with no practice. Or you look at an actor before they shoot their Oscar-winning performance, they have rehearsed their asses off. So I don't know why any of us think we're going to go into a very challenging, difficult, uncomfortable conversation with a difficult, challenging, uncomfortable person who makes us uncomfortable without having rehearsed or practiced in some way. And even practice is one of my 5 P's of confidence through my research when I was writing my thesis. And so again, I was preparing for a very, very difficult conversation with my ex-boss, and I was very triggered by this person. And I'm a New Yorker. I have no freaking chill. So California has like chilled me out a little bit. I'm still easing in. I haven't been here very long, but I think we are all guilty of being so reactive, and we get to be. It makes sense that someone who is treating you terribly is going to elicit great reactivity in you. However, and again, that's why I say, dear God, that I am triggered by this person more than anyone. Please take this from me. Please help me. So I will work with a professional, or even, rehearse with myself, and just know, like, I have to. It is like being an actor and playing a part where I'm like, I'm not going in as Kate, the fiery, people are going to trigger the F out of me person. I'm going in almost like, as my speaking coach would say, playing actions. Like, how do you want your audience to feel? And I'm like, I want this very difficult man to feel seen and heard and loved and cared for. I'm like, great. How are you going to do that? So I think preparing ourselves, and if I can do it, anybody can, as I'd like to say, because I had arguably the most difficult conversation of my life recently. And it was also the most calm and non reactive I've ever been in my life. And it really speaks to the work works. Like, this stuff works if you do. It is like going to the gym. Your personal trainer can't do the push-ups and pull-ups for you. It's on you, but then the results are yours. And you can't just show up at the gym in your cute pink outfit, which I've done many times, and sat at the cafe and ordered food and didn't do anything. Didn't get fit. I loved my food, did not get fit. So I call myself out. I did that all the time in New York at the sports club. 9 times out of 10, just ate at the cafe. Whatever. And then I walked 9 miles around the city, so it was okay. But so I think the more that we can really practice that, but first get clear on, why am I so triggered by this person or these things that are happening to me? It's like, maybe it reminds you of mommy, maybe it reminds you of daddy. It's ultimately like, I don't feel seen or heard or cared for or loved. And so once we get clear on that and do the full spirit workout exercises, it doesn't matter what's thrown at you, because the chaos, the uncertainty, the rude, mean people who are going to hurt us, those people are sadly not going anywhere. So it is up to us to really do the inner transformation and become so fit on the inside that it's like, bring it on, what you got. Okay, he's doing this. Wow. Still choosing to react with love, still choosing to react with non-reactivity. And as I say, if I can do it, anybody can. So, I offer you
Love
that.
it. It's so good. With your, like, if I were just to meet you, I feel like being a fellow athlete, athletes recognize other athletes, high level athletes. And you said something earlier about investing in coaching. And, you know, I think a lot of times non athletes don't get that out in the real world. Like, why am I going to invest this certain amount? Or it's too expensive, or I don't feel worthy of that. Why do you think, like, former athletes, just like for myself, it's easy to make an investment on my self development because I know I'm results oriented in the fact of it brings me flashbacks of my playing days of soccer. And so can you touch on, like, with your sporting background and what you've really had to do outside of that in once you got past your sporting career, why did it come easy for you to make investments on yourself in terms of personal development? And why do you think it's so difficult for people to invest anything, whether it's we're talking about quiet time or investing in, thousands of dollar, coaching programs?
I have really big goals, and my goals involve first and foremost helping other people. So the days I can't do it for just little old me, I do it for the people who don't have my privileges, the people who haven't had my life advantages, the people um, who really really need help. And so I think I've just, God has given me some gifts and strengths and talents, and it is my duty and responsibility to share those gifts with the world. I am not different than anybody. Everybody has gifts and strengths and talents. And it's our job to discover them and be aware of them. And if you don't know, ask someone who really cares about you and values you. They can reflect back to you what those strengths and gifts are. I've taken a million assessments, but for me, I've got some big work to do here because I see the struggling in the world. And I think, gosh, I'm such a happy person. I've had a good life. If I've struggled so many times, I can't imagine what other people go through. And when you invest in yourself, it comes back tenfold. And so it really is worth every penny to spend that time. And I think maybe some people starting out, if they're scared or they don't want to or aren't able to invest a lot of money, there are people who are willing to work pro bono. There are so many resources out there for you. There's financial aid available for certifications and degrees. And so I really do invite everybody to think about, who do I really want to be in the world, and offer that you don't have to hit rock bottom before you're like, ooh, I should make a change here, and really be committed to being that light in the world, and offering something. Even a friend of mine who's a brilliant photographer, and he was always so negative and down on himself. And finally, one day, this is what we call honest labeling and coaching. I'm like, you know what? It's not about you. You are the most gifted photographer I've ever worked with. You need to step it up and get it together and get out of your own way and set up a real business here and get it together. What's up? And it's not me being mean. And I think he appreciated that. And I think sometimes we just, the people that get sick and tired of being sick and tired, we don't even have to get there. I think just getting clear on who you are, what you're here to do, why it matters, why is this important to you? The question why is such a way to move the needle. But first you need to have some understanding of who you are, and why your gifts and strengths matter, and think about the people whose lives are going to be enriched because of you.
Hmm. I love that. And helping other people rise up. And I think you made a great point of bringing up that example, because sometimes people feel like they're getting called out rather than called out to rise up. We're called out to rise instead of being called out and getting in the defensive, because we know the potential they have. And sometimes that self-worth, a lot of times people don't see. I think that's a big thing too with the collective right now, is people don't see their self-worth as others do, and that was a great example that you brought up. uh, if you Let me see. Do you want to add anything, Guru, to that before I?
Yeah, I thought it was perfect just the way it was.
Okay,
Thank you for asking.
wanted to You had something to say on that because it was really good. Uh, we've all had roadblocks, Kate, and things that have happened in our life. what are some major roadblocks you had to conquer or get through in regards to your own four bodies? Obviously, you brought up one earlier, but what would you say in the last, 2 to 3 years that some roadblocks that you've conquered that you want to celebrate and share with us?
I think I think being human is a roadblock, right? I think it's challenging to be a human and just waking up every day and going for it. And, I'm not asleep to what's going on, in my community and around the world. People are struggling with a lot. And I really commend the effort that people put in every day to just go about their business and work through things. Certainly, I'm coming off a challenging time. I think we all are, with several years of COVID and our lives being turned upside down. I think recently, and I've talked to Shamananda about it, where I want to invite everybody to think of that roadblock, or something we've labeled as the worst thing that's happened to us, or one of the worst things that's happened to us. And really, also, that gets to be true. And also, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. And start looking and phrasing things as, gosh, what if this was the best day of my life? And if you think that, you think, wow, it's the best day of my life because I'm alive, I'm living, I'm talking to great people, the sun shines out, I ate a nice breakfast, and just letting simple pleasures kind of lead the way rather than all these grand things that we're striving for. Let simplicity of the present moment be enough. But certainly, just going through a challenging time in this with a certain a job and person that I worked with. Um, Without getting into the details, I think whatever roadblock comes to mind for anyone listening right now, just think of that. Hopefully you're on the other side of it, or you are making your way through that, and that the sun comes up again tomorrow, and really taking the truth of you're better for having gone through that. And then for me, I get into such a place of gratitude and thanking that person or that situation for making me stronger, smarter, more powerful, and even more compassionate, first with myself and others. And a friend of mine said to me a long time ago that our suffering gives us an X-ray vision into the suffering of others. And so I think, wow, only because I have suffered so significantly at certain times throughout my life am I able to really see and understand the suffering in others. And then that makes me, again, want to invest in myself so I can be a better tool for people around the world who are suffering.
I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. And perception is so important. Perception is so important when you go through your dailies. And we can choose what kind of perception that we have, and not a lot of people understand that. So when it comes to, uh, you know, any kind of pain and suffering, we get to choose what the extent of our pain and suffering is going to be, the extent, the damage it's going to do in our bodies, our consciousness, our minds. And most people just navigate through life thinking that they don't have a choice, but they do. So you can choose to see things in a way that's really negative and really, or you can accept the fact that you're suffering at the moment and then choose to have a different type of perception or outlook that would serve you to the highest degree. And not a lot of people will go in there and take control like that. They'll just go on autopilot. So a lot about what we talk here about on a regular basis is just how to start taking control of your consciousness and understand that you actually have a say as to how you're feeling, and you're choosing your feelings as opposed to your feelings happening to you and that you're a victim to your feelings. And I think that was part of your point. So I wanted to add that because I thought what you said was really beautiful.
Thank you. I love what you said and added to that. I appreciate that. And it's just, I think these little reminders, I think a lot of us understand most or many things intellectually to a degree, but it's really about taking that knowledge in our head, moving it down into our hearts, and then out through our bodies, through our hands, and implementing it and doing that work. And I think that's where, I mean, you see it in business too, the visionaries, and they have the great ideas, but they don't have the execution skills, which is why it's important to, again, partner with people who can help you carry out your mission and vision, whatever that is. But I think it does happen often where we're intellectualizing something, but then we don't put it into practice, or at least consistently. So gentle reminder to, and maybe start small. And if you fall off the path and wagon, which we all will, but just coming back to that path, getting back on the wagon sooner rather than later. And that can certainly happen quicker with a great support system. So just the importance of that. And maybe the message people need to hear is maybe it's also the season of letting some people go with love, releasing with love. You probably don't even need to have a full on conversation, but just like, okay, I got off the phone with this person and I felt judged or attacked or blamed or not seen at all. So it's like, maybe less of that, go spend some more time with myself. And then when we kind of release that, whether it's a job, a person, a situation, an environment, like this has happened to me, it almost feels like magic and how quickly it happens that those people, those situations, those jobs get replaced by so much better and what is a match for you now in this present moment. So even if it's hard, I do recommend doing that because the reward is so worth it.
Absolutely. It's so interesting because, as we continue to evolve, the relationships that no longer serve us naturally fall away, whether we're choosing for them to fall away or not. But sometimes it's a conscious choice, and sometimes they just leave, and that is what serves us, and that's part of the machinations of life and how we go through life and continue to grow. I mean, the right people start moving in and the old people start pushing out, and then you continue to create and cultivate everything that you're trying to manifest in this life based on your consciousness. So the shedding of the layers, the way you were describing, and the people that no longer serve is just a beautiful reminder that everything that's being orchestrated here is highly intelligent, and much more intelligent than we can conceive of with our small little human minds. So there is a co-creation and orchestration that's happening with all of us humans and the planet and the wildlife and everything else. And it's beautiful to see snapshots of that in the way people come in and out depending on where you're at and where your growth is. So I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So good. So good. Well, Kate, I want to be respectful of your time. I have one more question, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So obviously we're going into spring. Spring's that fresh energy coming out of winter. Sometimes it's a dormant season for a lot of people. Like we're talking about, relationships are changing, jobs are changing. Um, we lose people, the holidays, all that and above. What are you looking forward to this spring and the rest of this year in your own life, and also to what do you plan to do in terms of serving the collective? I love how you say, you keep bringing that up, is serving more than yourself. And I'm a firm believer too, is our lives are bigger than ourselves, and I love how you hit home with that. So what are some things you're looking forward to in this spring season of rebirth, renewal, and restoration?
I think just continuing the journey of self-discovery, and for me just being this clean slate of openness for opportunities, experiences, new people, and really having created the space for just so many surprises to come in that I'm just, delighted to greet and to meet, and really open to anything and anyone in terms of you know goodness and collaborations with like-minded, like-souled people where we can really help elevate and uplift the world together, because it's more fun. Then I'm looking forward to more fun. I think we've all fallen asleep to the fact that we're meant to be having fun here and to be more childlike and playful and not so much adulting 24/7, but giving ourselves freedom and permission to have more fun. But I'm really just looking forward to taking the things moment by moment, really being present, really being intentional, and really working on my own tool, and really fine tuning my own instrument so I can play it for the world. And then people are inspired to fine tune their instrument so they can play it for the world. And so without having to tell people what to do, or you should do this, or look at me, it's more of just thought you might like to know, or just simply by us doing the work and showing up in a way where people are like, wow, like I'll have what she's having. What is that? And really being that space and instrument of peace and hope and joy. And it sounds a little, okay, ooh, that sounds nice, but it really is that simple, but it does require putting in some work. But I think even just having more fun with the work, and rather than looking at it as like, oh, I got to drudge through this, is, you know, teaming up with partners who make it more fun and enjoyable and accomplishable.
Absolutely, and people who have the same vision, you know, a similar acts of integrity and mindfulness, and you know, the people that are really going to push the envelope of where you're trying to go. You know, people who are going to encourage you to grow exponentially in a way that makes sense for not just yourself but for the collective. All these things are so important, and you're very mindful of all of those things. And I just absolutely love that you're a voice box for all of the people that really need to hear these types of things right now. So thank you. You're a godsend. And I'm so grateful that you wrote this book. And for all of you that haven't bought this book yet and read it, why? What's wrong with you? Go buy this book. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And if you don't buy it today, I'm going to shame you. No, I'm just kidding. But really, seriously, it's a great book. You should pick it up. I love this book. I've kept it close to me all week long. I've had it for about a week, and I'm so grateful that it's in my possession. So please do check it out. And, you know, check out Kate. She's always doing something really cool and interesting. And she's on TV all the time. And I'm just so proud of this woman, and I absolutely adore her. She's actually one of my most favorite people right now, and probably will be for the rest of my life. So I just want you to know how much I love you and how grateful I am that you are in my realm of existence, so that I can actually engage with you and get to know you. And you really do mean a great deal to me. So the fact that you're on this live stream with us today means so much. And I just really want to give my sincere gratitude and thank you. And you're just such you're a prolific speaker, and you're so intelligent, and it's just, we need more people like you out there. And I'm just so grateful that you're doing what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your gift of friendship, but just you have moved mountains for me, just, you know, energetically, and helped me so much through your gifts. And I was talking to someone earlier, they were talking about being in, and this is, I love psychotherapy too, but someone who did, you know, so many sessions, didn't really feel like it moved the needle. And I've worked with different people, and it was nice, and didn't really feel I'd moved the needle. And with you, it's just, even after one session, just the tremendous growth and transformation that happens speaks so much to you and your gifts. And thank you for sharing with the world. And you've been such a, you know, front and center person and light and in my healing journey, and really getting, and what you've done for me, it's like, all right, we need to like clear that out, because you've got work to do. And I think so that's why it's, you know, easy to do the work, because I've got stuff to do, and you've got stuff to do, and everyone watching has something to do, and John has something to do. So taking the time to do that, whatever that means for you. And but thank you. And John, thank you. I appreciate you both. And I'm just excited. I love conversations like this, because, you know, we're fed so much junk food through the different forms of media, that this feels like that really healthy, nutritious, and delicious meal that we can just take with us to nurture us, and then inspire us to keep eating healthy and consuming things that love us.
Absolutely. There's not enough people who are talking about real things. You know, I think the airwaves are really stuffed with a lot of things that aren't very important, but not a lot of people are taught how to actually have a consciousness that functions, where they can get along with the world and interact in a way that makes them feel good and uplifts them, and also where they can see the entire landscape of the world and actually interact with it in a way that's intelligent and steady and grounded. So all of this work is really important. All the work you do is really important. I am a servant to you know, in love and devotion, as long as you'll have me. So I'm really grateful that I'm in your life. So as I said, and thank you, John. Do you have anything to say?
I love it. Love, Kate, having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on here with us. And we always like to end on a call to action. And I just was thinking how beautifully you reminded all of us to have fun in this life form that we get to, be in this moment, and that's all we have. So I just wanted to remind our viewers, have fun today, have blissed out moments. And, if you're going through a hard time right now, just know this too shall pass. And we get to, do the work like Kate shared, and, be here for each other. And just want to thank you, Kate, for being on here. Really enjoyed meeting you and talking with you today. And to our viewers, we don't do any commercials or anything. All we ask, serving the collective, is you share this with someone that you love, with a stranger, maybe someone that needs to hear our messages today. And I'll go back to Guru and also Kate on where you guys could find them specifically through their website. So thanks so much, Kate. We love you both. We love you so much. And thanks for being on today.
How can
Thank
we
you
find
both
you?
so much. I'm so grateful. You can find me at kateeckman.tv. It's KATEECKMAN.tv, like the tube that you watch, or you can head over to thefullspiritworkout.com and find me on all the social medias through those sites as well. Would love to connect with you, keep the conversation going. Thank you both. This was just the highlight of my day. I'm feeling good, and I appreciate you both, and I appreciate anyone who is seeing or hearing this right now. You are loved, you are blessed, we love you, and keep going, keep doing you, we need you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if anyone has any questions or they want to some support in anything that they're going through in their life, if that is you, please do leave a comment, send us an email, do something so that we can actually support you. That's why we're here. We love you. We're grateful. We're going to sign off. So thank you so much for sharing space with us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
All right.